Hi, everyone. Thanks a lot for taking the time to join our webinar today, where we will look into thought leadership and SEO with Andy Crestodina from Orbit Media. Let's just start with a short introduction. It's me here I'm a strategic consultant here, Thomas Silokas at Similarweb, and with me I have Andy Crestodina, co-founder and CMO of Orbit Media Studios. And Andy, if you can tell us a bit more about yourself and what the company does, it would be amazing.
I am honored to be here. I've admired your product for, 10 years, long time. And it's a pleasure to collaborate. I'm a SEO and analytics guy from way back, like 20 years using SEO and analytics, going back to the tools prior to Google Analytics, back when we spelled analytics with a lowercase a. And the last 13, 14 years, I've been doing content marketing, content strategy, blogging, email, social. And our company here, I'm the co-founder of Orbit, which is a web development company here in Chicago. And I do lots of things like this. I'd love to teach, so I'm excited about today.
Yeah, and I think you're great at it. So we're definitely looking forward to this presentation. And yeah, I think next we'll just shortly cover what will be topics that we'll talk about today. So first of all, we'll talk about can brands be thought leaders and whether thought leadership can be outsourced, which I think is a very interesting topic and useful for any brand or any company. Then, do you need to publish research or strong opinion pieces? And how thought leadership content attracts links and authority, high rankings, and qualify visitors. One more thing I really want to mention is that one of the reasons we do these presentations live is to have more engagement from people who actually watch the webinar. So please, guys, ask the questions. You can click on the Q&A button at the bottom of the webinar and just please type as many as you can, and then we'll try to answer most of them at the end of the presentation. And from here, please, Andy, without further ado, you can show us actually how to do our best job to be thought leaders in the industry.
It's a pleasure. Again, thank you. I apologize for any background noise. There's some construction or something going on in the background here. Hopefully I sound okay. And I want to say also,
well.
Thanks, Thomas. And one more thank you in advance for something that Similarweb is helping us do. I'm going to touch on the topic of original research. Original research is a very powerful tactic, and I'll explain how it relates directly to thought leadership and search rankings. We do our own original research, which I may also touch on, which involves a survey. Every year, we get 1,000 bloggers to answer 12 questions, and it's really hard to get people to do it. So Similarweb has agreed to let us drop a link into the chat that you're going to see a link in there. It's like very short. It takes just 2 minutes. You can click on it. You can do it now as I start my brief intro. You can do it later. I'll be forever grateful if you share it with another friend or two who also creates content or is a blogger. So thanks in advance. Thank you, Similarweb. Thank you, everyone, for who's able to help with that. Here we go. I'm going to click to share my screen. You're going to see a blank screen for just one brief second as I go into presentation mode, thought leadership and SEO. I love this one. This presentation is a combination of research, I've already mentioned, and my take on it with some specific tactical things that you can do right away to impact your own search rankings. I'm going to start with this. This is the Edelman definition of thought leadership, which I do not like. I don't think this is a good definition. It says thought leadership is what? Free deliverables organizations or individuals produce on a topic they know a lot about, and they feel that others can benefit from having their perspective on. Doesn't include sales content. That's content marketing. That is basically a definition of content marketing. Can't we hold thought leadership, the term thought leadership, to a higher standard, please? Here's another definition. This is just straight from Wikipedia. An individual or firm that is recognized as an authority, that makes actually more specific already, in a specialized field and whose expertise is sought and often rewarded. Kind of get it? Kind of helps. Longitude, which is a research company in the UK, has a really nice definition I like. It says original insight, that's more specific as well, that engages senior audiences and has a clear marketing rationale. Let's work on a better definition for thought leadership. I'm going to give you now, over the next 45 minutes, a research-based definition of thought leadership. And I'm going to combine these three things. I'm making the case now that thought leadership and thought leaders combine three things. They have visibility, as in a personal brand. some awareness, some platform. They take a stand, which means they publish their perspective on things, and they are experts on a topic. So personal brand plus taking a stand plus expertise. This, I think, aligns in sort of, it's a lovely alignment with the Aristotle, if you remember from college, 3 modes of persuasion, which are what? Ethos, pathos, and logos. It's kind of it, right? This is sort of, it fits nicely. If you translate those into marketing aspects of marketing leaders or people in the world who publish stuff or take a stand, it looks like this. A thought leader is the overlap between an influencer, they have a following, a key opinion leader, they make statements, they publish op-ed, and a subject matter expert. So it's on that Venn diagram, and I could actually label for you these other ones. I mean, if people listen to you and you just have opinions but no insights, you might just be a jerk. Like, we could probably come up with definitions for all of these. In the middle, though, I'm going to say that's the thought leader, and that is really the standard to which I'd like to hold this definition, this term, ourselves, our content strategies. I think that to be a thought leader, you really need to do all 3. I'm going to break down now, or basically I'm going to borrow this as the structure for this mini presentation, and say first, and align with tactics, thought leaders have expert insights. They have expert insights. So let's zoom in on that part of the Venn diagram. And I'm going to give you 3 ways to do that. One is to have original research. Another is new and novel ideas. And finally, writing books positions anyone as an expert. I'll show you the SEO benefits of that. I partnered with SurveyMonkey and Michelle from Mantis Research. We surveyed 480 marketers, 481, I think, and got the answers to the questions, what's thought leadership? And I'm going to present those to you now. This is like just earlier this year, pretty recent research. What types of individuals make the best thought leaders? Experts. Okay, we got that down. Definitely experts in a field. If you don't know what you're talking about, you're not likely to get a following. You're not really a leader. If you don't have thoughts, you're not a thought leader. You must have thoughts. You have to be an expert, right? CEOs, maybe, analysts, maybe, consultants were the lowest on the list, although they are often in thought leadership positions. Next, what do you consider to be effective thought leadership content? Slightly different question. Educational how-to content wins. Basically aligning with the concept that thought leadership is the overlap between thought leadership and content marketing, right? Research reports, trends, how-to stuff. 71% of our respondents said that purely educational content can be thought leadership. I'm not going to agree with that. You'll see in a minute. I go deeper than that, but let's stick with that. And I'm going to give you tactic number or strategy number 1. Publish original research, which I already said, which is something hopefully a couple of you are willing to help me with my survey. 60% of respondents said that research reports are effective thought leadership content. Example. Steve Rayson from BuzzSumo analyzed 1 million articles and correlated what types of content achieve the highest levels of links and shares. Fascinating, right? This is a few years ago. What type of content gets the most links and shares? He found first, this is shocking, or at least terrifying, most content gets nothing. 75% of articles nobody ever links to, nothing. And 50% of articles get 2 or fewer Facebook interactions. We'll round down to 0 because that pretty much means the author and their editor. That's pretty much nobody. In other words, most content gets no traction. What wins? He tells us what wins. If you want to create content that achieves a high level of both shares and links, let's call that social and search, then you should concentrate on 2 things: opinion-forming authoritative content and well-researched and evidence content. Now you can see why I'm bringing Aristotle into this, right? It's strong opinion and original research. If you want to, the content that consistently outperforms is strong opinion or original research. So original research, let's stick with that for a minute. Hinge Marketing does a ton of this, and they analyze agencies. Some agencies get 20% growth year over year. They call those high growth agencies. What correlates with this category? Original research. They are 3 times, your agency will be 3 times as likely to appear in the high growth category in Hinge's data set if you publish original research. Specific, not a dotted line, a direct straight line. I'm going to connect all straight lines for you today, right? Direct causal relationship. Original research attracts links. Go look at any account that you can find in Google Search Console or in any of the SEO tools or Similarweb, or use anything you'd like. You can see that this is the content that gets the traction. it always, right, is in the list of the things. Anything that's a primary source, anything that makes, this is the way to think about it. Is there any information for which your website is the primary source? I'm holding you to a high bar. The primary source, where you were the original for that soundbite, statistic, nugget of data, chart, diagram, whatever it might be. Here's some examples. What is the lifespan of a website? I do not know the answer to that question. Couldn't find anybody who had the answer to that question. Found an information gap. Going to fill the information gap. How? Went to go download a list of top websites, right? Similarweb's got one for you. Then gave that list to a VA who looked at each website these are top marketing websites, who looked at each website in the Wayback Machine at archive.org to see the interval at which they had redesigned, and came up with the answer, published it in an article. What's the lifespan of a website? The answer is 2 years and 7 months. The top marketing websites redesign themselves on an average cadence of 2 years and 7 months. This page is the source of that information. This information is useful to many people in their marketing. This page is cited by Wikipedia. Okay, I know that is a no-follow link. It's not an equity passing link. Wikipedia links are not going to maybe affect my search rankings, but it's a directional cue that I'm doing something useful in the world. And I'm citing it here because it is an indication of quality. It is an example of thought leadership. If you're wondering the specific outcome, right, the followed link outcome, maybe I could report on that for you. Here in Search Console, I can see like more than 100 websites have linked to that. Keeping in mind that 75% of content gets 0. This is like 10x, this is 100x content, right? Compared to the average. So how did I do it? Just made something new, right? It cost time low, not expensive, not time consuming. Here's another example. What features are standard on websites? True story. Launch a website for client. Client reaches out the next day. Where's the search tool on our website? There is no search tool on your website because it wasn't in scope. It wasn't added to scope because it wasn't part of the strategy. Why? Because you have a shallow and not, narrow sitemap, not a ton of content here. Descriptive navigation labels. There's not going to be a need for a sitemap. We could add it. It would be mostly visual noise. No one's going to use it. They don't really need it. It's a very simple site. But isn't that standard? Aren't search tools standard on websites? It's a fair question. It's a great question. What's standard on websites? I couldn't answer this, but I know how to find out. Again, go back, get a list of websites. Similarweb's got one for you. Give that to a VA, have them go look at this, build a spreadsheet, a list of, each row is a feature, each column is a website. Go look at this. I have a VA working on a new version of this research for me right now. Here's the chart. If 75% of sites had it, I called it a standard. Yes, I made up that threshold. If 50% of sites had it, I called it a web convention, maybe not a standard. And this chart basically shows what features are standard on what websites. This page outranks the World Wide Web Consortium for the phrase web design standards. That's the W3C. They control the internet. That is the standard setting body for the internet. It's actually not that difficult to outrank them because they are not very into SEO. They don't really care about SEO. They don't have to be. They control the internet. They're fine. They're not doing SEO over there. They didn't use the target key phrase in the title, header, body text. They weren't worried about relevance and semantic SEO. I am. And so you can see how I'm outperforming them here for the phrase web design standards. Let's look at the traffic. Quite a bit of visibility. 160,000 page views in that over time whenever I took this screenshot, quite a few. And its ability to affect our authority and ranking potential, quite high. 200 plus websites have linked to that article. Why? Because it's new. What's a good bounce rate? I don't know. Do you know? No one knows. But I do have access to we built 1,000 websites in the last 20 years. I have access to hundreds and hundreds of analytics accounts. I have a VA, go look at 500 Google Analytics accounts and report back to me. Here's the spreadsheet, I'm showing it to you. The industry, B2B or B2C, overall, the bounce rate for each channel. Totally fascinating, right? This is all, I would have been better off just to call Thomas because there are ways to report on this without manual categorization. You guys could have helped me a lot. Average bounce rate by traffic source. Turns out my data shows it is 61%. 61%, you can see it down here. And then I break it down by industry. The average of 62% is the average bounce rate for e-commerce websites. Speaking of, I got smarter and I have worked with Similarweb. You guys are amazing content partners. Let me just tab out and show you a screen of a YouTube video I made. here I am working on a YouTube video, trying to show what is a good amount, how much traffic is categorized as direct traffic in top accounts. And so this is a video about website traffic sources. These are all different things that are categorized as direct traffic. This is data from Similarweb. Thank you guys again. 58% direct, that's amazing. Why? Because there's all kinds of different things that get categorized in that way, including dark social and, you know, clicks from HTTPS to HTTP and so on. Anyway, my research and collaboration partners is a big part of content marketing. And thank you again, Similarweb. You guys have incredible data. Everyone should know that by now. A lot of Similarweb fans and current customers are here on the call. Your framework for emulating what I just showed you how I did at no cost several times with massive results is to ask this question. What do people in your industry frequently say but rarely support with evidence? What is the frequently asserted but rarely supported thing? There are, in other words, begin with this thesis. There are information gaps in your field. Your job as a content marketer to create something original, to rise above noise, to do all the things that we all complain is so hard to do, is to just find and publish and promote that missing stat. Find the missing statistic. That's it. I've done sessions, I've done workshops before where it's like, this is all we do. We spend an hour, customer service team, the sales team, some executives maybe, and like we all just brainstorm together. And by the time we leave that, their content strategy just leveled up because they are now prepared to go do the work, hard work through survey and outreach, or faster work through just discovering data in the wild, observational data, that will make their site the primary source. If I did a content audit for anybody, it's not really the classic thing that we're doing here every day, but I would include that on my content audit. Is this domain the primary source for any information? If yes, you've got a PR advantage, an SEO advantage, authority, relevance, outreach, influencer marketing, a million things. 47%, the majority do not do this. Only 47% of companies publish original research in the last 12 months. Why? Because it's harder. It takes more time. It's easier to just pump out another medium quality blog post. It's probably 10 times the effort in analysis and image creation, sometimes outreach, collaboration, ideation, all these things. Yeah, that blogger survey is like, again, thank you for filling it out for any of you that did. It's like 120 hours it takes us every year to publish this thing. This is year 7. The average article takes us maybe 12 hours, if that. That's 10x. But the results, 100x, 100x. This is the most important, least scientific chart in this presentation. I strongly believe this. This is true in everything, right? Work harder on that next tweet, whatever it is, on that next YouTube thumbnail. Work harder on the next email subject line, right? Write 8 of them before you choose one, right? Test them in social media. Work harder on that thing. Sorry, I have no shortcuts for you guys. I don't think that shortcuts are the path to thought leadership. Speaking of the long way to get there, write a book. I'll make it easier for you, but I really recommend writing a book because 32% of respondents said, that's 1 in 3 said, authors make good thought leaders. Authors make the best thought leaders. Here is my framework. I'm trying to keep it practical for going big in the ultimate format for content that puts author next to your name in Google's knowledge base in your knowledge panel there on the side, right, of Google search results for your name, or make an amazing sales enablement tool, make an unbelievable leave behind if you're a B2B service provider and is doing sales in any way. Make it easier to get accepted to present or to get interviewed, right? It's going to make life easier in general. How? It's about your elbow. I'm kind of kidding. Elbow stands for lifetime body of work. Everyone is creating a lifetime body of work. Every content marketer, whether they're deliberate about it or not, whether they're tracking it or not, whether they are doing it with forethought and planning or not, we're all creating a lifetime body of work, right? Everything you make is part of your lifetime body of work. So my advice though is to, and I track mine by the way, I highly recommend it if you're into personal performance or productivity. To track things visually is helpful. I literally have a list of every article I've ever published since 2007. And on it, I can see like I'm at like 440 now or something. It's rewarding, right? You're like, it's like, I don't know. I think of it as like pennies in the piggy bank. So I track my lifetime body of work. In fact, I'm such a nerd, I made a chart. You can see my era of guest blogging, by the way, which I'll talk about in a second. But this is everything I've ever published and the mix of it. So the idea is to first make an outline of everything that you know about an important topic. Write it down. Make an outline of all the things. It's an awesome intellectual challenge to try to fit it on maybe 2 pages, not to write the book yet, but just write what will become the table of contents. Then you can go blog into those topics. You're going to see at a glance. It's going to expose things quickly. You're going to say, wow, I wrote about that 6 times, but I never covered this one yet. It happened to me right away. Then you can go blog into it, right? This aligns with your content strategy. You should now produce content to fill in the gaps. That's the book. Now, this is not a super original piece of advice. I'm blog into a book. I'm the millionth person to talk about how to blog into a book. But that's how I did it. I put everything I know on little Post-it notes, categories, kind of a minimalist approach on a wall. It was on that wall for like 6 months. It took me a long time to get it together. That outline became the table of contents. The actual table of contents in the book, and that's the book. I'm the author of now in its 5th edition, the Illustrated Handbook for Content Marketing. It is a repeatable framework that any of you can do. You could do it together as a team. You could do it by first publishing small ebooks and then building up to the bigger book. You don't have to reach out to, this is a self-published book. I'm using a distribution company, so I don't have to deal with any of the nonsense about converting to Kindle or ebook and distribution. I never have to touch the book. It's printed by and distributed by. But that really does wonders. It also flips the world of marketing on its head in a way, because you have a piece of content that can generate revenue. Crazy, right? Totally possible. You can actually, for people who do this well enough and hard enough, you've seen this. You see content strategies like this all the time, where the content itself produces revenue. So that's literally like sales from last year. It's not a super high number. Our book is basically break even, but you might be surprised. It may not be the kind of out-of-pocket expense that you thought of. And we're talking about SEO. It's a link magnet. Because people who talk about, if you're present in conversations, it's natural for that thing to include a link back to the book page. You have to make a page on your site or it doesn't work. But that you make a page on your site and that says order, how to order or whatever. It's got reviews or whatever. But it's a link magnet that lends authority to your entire domain, which makes every page on your site more likely to rank, which is how you get your sales page to rank for the money phrase. You know the game, right? We need to have content. Therefore, there's something for the world to link to. Those links make our entire website more credible and improve the ranking potential of every URL on that website, which improves the chance of ranking for the money phrase, the sales page, the product or service page, to rank for the commercial intent key phrase. I would not rank so high for all the really valuable phrases, and to be able to build a $6 million company with 40 employees with 0 advertising. This is the content strategy. I'm showing you a big chunk of it. This is not actually my tactic, something in my strategy, but I'm going to present it because I really believe in this, and I can show you tons of examples. We all know of great examples. I am going to show you how taking a stand and publishing strong perspective and POV, point of view, connects back to SEO, which I don't think is a line that people draw all the time. So I'm going to say that strong opinion for and against things, controversy, inspiration, right? I never do inspirational content. That's why I'm never a keynote at a conference. I'm always a session guy or the workshop guy. Totally fine. That's my strategy. But there is no motivation that comes from these things, right? These are how-to articles. That's my strategy. This may or may not be part of yours. I'm just going to explain how it works. The survey respondents agreed. 55% said that opinion and commentary made effective thought leadership content. Not nearly as strong, by the way, as the correlation between how-to content and thought leadership. So this is where I don't agree. 71% said that purely educational content can be thought leadership. I'd like to hold it to a higher standard. I think that word should be reserved for more than just content marketing. To make that point more specifically, I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and if I don't know how to assemble the baby stroller, I'm going to YouTube to watch a video. A stroller assembly video on YouTube qualifies for Edelman's definition of thought leadership. It's just educational how-to content putting together a stroller. We can all agree that it's not thought leadership. That's a video of how to assemble a baby stroller. You get my point. We can do better. 53% said that thought leaders should have strong opinions, but not necessarily be controversial. The biggest answer was 44% said that being controversial was kind of a nice to have. So you don't have to do something, you don't have to anger people necessarily, or do you? I had the chance to meet, not really meet, to ask a question to Seth Godin. I was at a conference, I was in the final session. He gave a half-hour presentation and took questions for half an hour, and it was riveting. That guy really is a legit thought leader. And when I asked him this question, his eyes lit up. I didn't even finish the question. I just said, is thought leadership really a thing where, and he just like wanted to jump in. You could tell he got really motivated by it. And I wrote down his answer as fast as I could. This is what he said. Thought leadership always creates tension. It's about making assertions. You have to be willing to be wrong. You can be certain that some people will disagree. In other words, if no one's disagreeing with you, you're really not doing thought leadership. So he agrees that, he disagrees that purely educational content can be thought leadership. He thinks that thought leadership is partly about that taking a stand, right? The pathos part of Aristotle's 3 modes of persuasion. So publishing strong opinion, here's some examples. Basecamp. It is a project management tool. If you search for it, you're going to find ads above Basecamp's organic listing, right? That's a branded query, navigational query. You'd think, obviously they rank #1, but Google will let you buy ads on other people's keywords, other people's brand names. So Jason Fried, co-founder of Basecamp, is not happy about this. So he makes an ad that says, we're the #1 result, but this site, as in Google, lets companies advertise against us using our brand name. So here we are, a little independent company forced to pay ransom to a giant tech monopoly. He's pissed. He's not very happy. And then what does he do? Easier for Jason. He's got a platform. This kind of stuff is partly why he has a platform, right? He's famous for writing a book and taking a stand and being a columnist. Actually, I could make this whole presentation about Jason Fried. It's a classic example. So then when he goes to Twitter and says this, Google puts 4 paid ads ahead of you. You're forced to pay up. It's a shakedown. What happens next? Watch this space. Boom, 13,000 people start talking about it. That is not a typical tweet. That's taking a stand. That's sticking your neck out. That's making assertions. You can be certain some people will disagree, right? He's attacking a massive tech monopoly. What happens next? PR windfall. That's CNBC talking about it. You can't buy this kind of press. You can only earn it by being interesting. If you search for Basecamp Shakedown, there are tens of thousands of pages on the internet that mention this. Uh-oh. I put it into Moz just to try to look back on some historical link data. This is what happened when he did that. That is what a massive PR event looks like in terms of links and authority. Hundreds of organically attracted, spontaneously appearing links happened as soon as he did that. Is that, okay, what you might be thinking now is, do we have the guts to do that? Would I get support from executives? What would I talk about it if I wanted to take a stand? I'll give you a little framework for finding some answers in a second. One of my favorite examples, and a very famous example, most favorite examples, is Mark Schaefer's article Content Shock, which was from early 2014, when he came out and said, content marketing is not sustainable. It cannot last because the amount of content keeps increasing exponentially, but our audience's attention spans are finite. And he goes on, in this assertion, and you can agree or disagree, but you can't really ignore because everybody talked about this for weeks. Everybody talked about this for years, Look, 1,200 websites have linked to that single URL. There are more links to that one URL than most of my competitors' entire websites, right? Now, my BuzzSumo, here, I'll show you. My version of BuzzSumo only shows me the last year. I put them in there. 2,000 websites have 2,000 shares of this content just in the last year. Of course, not including LinkedIn, because BuzzSumo no longer has access to LinkedIn data. Wow. How many years later? 5 years later, it's getting shared thousands of times per year. That's what happens when you create it. Here, I'll say it another way. Seth Godin believes that the purpose of your content is to give your audience something to talk about. I'll say it a different way. The best content is remarkable, worthy of being remarked on, right? Is there anything that you've published, something that would trigger word of mouth or change the conversation or give everyone something to discuss, right? Ask this, what do you believe that most people would disagree with? What do you think is likely to happen in the future that most people think is unlikely? What questions are people in your industry afraid to answer? It's hard, guys. I get it. This takes guts. This is not for most content programs. I told you already, it's not for my content program, but it is doable. It is possible. It's not expensive. It's not time consuming. It is, it's simply taking a stand. I'm going to make it easier for you in two ways. One, I want to point out that it is not necessarily, people have strong opinions about mundane things. So this is not necessarily about gun control and social justice and international politics. Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm showed us that people have very strong opinions about very mundane things. That is basically the premise of those shows. So I was in a bar talking to some friends and we were like, yeah, wow, you know, strong opinion works so well, but I don't know if I can tackle these big topics. And then we talked about the Oxford comma and a fight broke out. Everybody's got a strong opinion about the Oxford comma. I almost got attacked. I don't use the Oxford comma. I go with the AP style guide. People on Twitter, put that on Twitter and you'll see, you'll just watch the thread, right? Everybody's got an opinion about the comma. So you can take on things that you can actually sort of fake this without going at a major issue. You can also improve this just by being more direct in your writing. Example, here's an article I wrote. It's called Fix Your Funnel, 15 Things to Remove from Your Website Immediately. I'm going to take a stand and say that there's things that you should definitely not have on your website. You should not have colorful social media icons in your header. That is a terrible idea. Those are candy colored exit signs. Why would you make the most prominent thing on your page an exit click? That's a terrible idea. That is bad web design. It is malpractice if somebody designed a website for you with big colorful social media icons in the header. Okay, I just said that in a very strong way. It's a pretty mundane thing. So that's what this whole article was. Remove from your website immediately. Fix your funnel because it's broken. 136 comments on this article. Let's take a look. Acacia says, what's surprising is his sanctimonious tone. See, you can be certain some people like I'm triggering this audience deliberately. But the comment right next to it is Curtis saying, you have instilled hope into my young ambitious designer heart. So you know that you're doing this, or at least getting closer to it when you see responses like this. That article has 5,000 shares. Would it have 5,000 shares if I'd written a headline like this? Best practices to maybe consider. Here are some changes that might possibly improve your website. No, that's boring. It may be factually accurate. It's boring. Here's a better headline. Fix your damn funnel. 15 things to remove from your website immediately. All I'm doing is not qualifying all of my language. I'm not pulling the punch. I'm just being more direct. I'm not worried about adding every word that qualifies it so it's exactly accurate. I'm simply taking a stronger stand in my writing. Any of you can do that. Even if you have a lack of executive support for strong opinion, you can simply be more direct in your writing, and that will cause some of these things to happen. Mark Schaefer's been telling us to do this for years. This is a screenshot of his 2013 strategy for social media. Grow a pair. Can you write a headline like that? I love that. Oh, Mark, I love you. Moving right along. Thought leaders have personal brands. You can't do this without a personal brand. You're not a leader unless you have some followers of some kind. What kind of followers? Social media or something. You should also be cited by others. You should also be influential in some way. Our respondents reported that thought leaderships do not need to have a social media following. 77% said it's not about social media. I love that. 68% said, but they do have to have followers who share and discuss their ideas. That's what being a leader would be. And then we get to this, and this is debatable. We can chat about this in the Q&A. 70% of the respondents said that brands can be thought leaders. I take issue with that as well. I don't think that brands have thoughts. I think that brands and companies are combinations of people. Brands partly exist in the mind of consumers. I don't see how that is you can see, I talked to Mark about this, and you can see how it could end up looking like that. Like there are brands like McKinsey that publish deep research, and there's an author's name, but it's really McKinsey masthead. Anyway, can thought leadership be ghostwritten? Is it impacted if it's ghostwritten? I've done this. I did this presentation in a little room in this office pre-COVID where I had a room full of people and I asked them to raise hands. Can thought leadership be outsourced? Most people did not raise their hand. You guys don't think it can be done? In fact, there were people in the room who do outsource thought leadership for brands. Their job is to interview experts and executives and then write on their behalf. So a very interesting topic. I'd love to hear anyone's thoughts. Drop them in the comment if you think thought leadership, if a brand can be a thought leader. I'm on the no side. Here's what a brand looks like, a personal brand looks like in a Google SERP, search engine results page, for someone who's been combining these tactics for a time. Is most, it's on-site owned URL for his name is his site, embedded Twitter, blogs, social media networks, knowledge panel, author tag, books he's written, information. That's all from the knowledge graph, right? Links to profiles. He has not claimed his knowledge panel. I recommend doing that. If you do that, there's not that much more you can do with it, but I'd claim it anyway. It makes it more official in Google. You're connected to it. Maybe there'll be a chance to manage it someday. So these people, like Mark, they actually show up in keyword research as having strong monthly search volume. So wow, that's the benefit of a personal brand. And to give the benefit to the company, for the ranking of their sales pages, to rank for the commercial intent key phrases, you need to have links to your site. There's another link magnet. The bio page is in fact a link magnet, even better than the book, right? And it's actually easy to do link reclamation. If someone mentions you somewhere in the link to your Twitter profile, you can reach out to them and say, would you mind please linking back? We'll talk about that in a second. And you got to contribute to their websites. I highly recommend. 32% said quotes in the media. So to do this well, I recommend that you first find all of your best SEO opportunities, wherever you're tracking keywords. Go sort that list by monthly volume, and you'll see the phrases and the pages that can best improve your top line traffic and would benefit the most from a link. For example, ranking for profile picture or how to write a blog post. These are blockbuster phrases. You can also just look for the pages that are declining in rank. I should be working on this key phrase, free SEO advice, I'm starting to slip, or what to blog about. How can I get links to these URLs? Another way to see this is to go to Search Console. I'm doing it through analytics right here, and just set a date range on the landing pages report to see the before and after on impressions. This is actually one of the best ways to measure SEO performance. It's directly from Google. This is the pre-post for any period on impressions for each landing page on your site. So it's all organic because it's Search Console reports. It's pre-click data, right? This is impressions and click-through rates and such, average position. So the things that I've declined, what about this one? How to use Google Tag Manager? Uh-oh. So now I put these on a list. You can also do this in Data Studio if you're that kind of marketer. It's nice in a way because you don't have to, they're all on sequential rows in Data Studio. If you build a little Data Studio report for it, ask me later. I called mine the early warning system. You can see if traffic or impressions have gone down before it dramatically impacts your marketing. So these are the pages, right, that would benefit the most from a little love, from a little link. These go on a list. And then when someone reaches out to you to ask you to contribute to something, hey, you got a quote from this? Can I do an interview of you? This happens naturally if you've built a personal brand. So it sounds like this. Can you contribute to this post I'm working on? Go look up their authority if you'd like. Go look at the pages on your site that would benefit the most from the link, from a link back, right? From a backlink. How about that one? How to write a blog post. And then I'm going to reach out and say, how about something about blogging best practices, which will likely include a link back to my article. He says, sounds great, buddy. So then when I submit my contribution to that, it includes a link back to my site. When the post goes live, I'm going to go check on that to see how to write a blog post. I am building links specific, and this is super easy if you publish original research, because original research is strong, supportive stuff that it works beautifully in every contribution to anyone's content. It includes a link back to my thing, right? It's so strategic. It's like laser focused. I think that people are not very deliberate about this, when in fact there's certain, remember like 10x and 100x, there's certain actions that are 10 or 100x the value to your brand. Then I track the link back to my site. I could show you my report. I've been doing this morning. I've been doing this today. So then after it happens, of course, you schedule it for promotion because it'd be rude to get mentioned somewhere and not promote it. I have a virtual assistant who has a training guide that shows exactly how to promote anything on social media. So all I have to do is when I mention somewhere, I just put that link into the promotables spreadsheet, and then they follow the instructions on how to promote that on social media. This is a great way to collaborate, and an easy way to get people to promote your content is to just include them in it. A lot of us automatically promote anything that we've contributed to. Why wouldn't we? Do that 100 times a year. I literally do that 100 times a year, at least, maybe more. So that's the recap. Find articles that need the love, track them on a list, wait for that opportunity to contribute, then provide a quote that references that article. Once it goes live, check the link, thank the author, and share. Giving presentations is almost its own goal for certain people, like they just really want to be presenters, which is maybe a personal goal, which I totally support. 28% said that public speakers make great thought leaders. If you're doing that, I recommend that you set up a social or a brand monitoring tool, a listening tool, so that you can see if you are mentioned somewhere. Like I get notifications from, this is not Moz, this is SEMrush, that tell me if I was included in something. I go to the page to see if it links back to my site. Oh, bummer, that links to Twitter. Boy, I need another link to Twitter like I need a hole in the head. I do not need to be building links to Twitter. That does not really help my brand. Twitter followers are lovely, but it's not going to improve your SEO. So you can reach out to that author and say, hey, thanks for the mention, loved it. By the way, would you mind, please? I'd be very grateful if you could just update that link to not go to Twitter and instead go to my speaker's bio. They respond, hey, great, sure, we updated that article. It's done. Now when you go back and you click on that link, it's going to be a link to your speaker's bio page, which is another link magnet, right? This builds the authority of a speaker's bio page, number of linking root domains, page authority if you're using Moz or whichever. And now here's your speaker's bio page, which is search optimized for topic plus speaker, content marketing speaker. It's a competitive phrase. I'm not banking on this. It's not my living is to be a speaker, but I'm showing you how you can make anyone in your company or do it for yourself, especially if you're in a niche where there's some blue ocean, not insane competition. Content marketing speakers, I rank for that phrase. How? This exact approach. Does it drive traffic? Yes, it does. Does it drive speaking requests? Yes, it does. Those are several per year I would not have otherwise. Plus the links benefit my domain authority, which help every page on my website rank, which is how I'm going to rank for the commercial intent key phrase to attract qualified visitors to my sales page, which I can then convert into leads and sales and revenue and so forth. I keep saying that, I know. You get the idea. You guys all know the mechanism between content marketing, links, search rankings for sales pages. So bottom line, I'm gonna now define it for you. Thought leaders, can anyone do it? Fundamentally, it's about educational content. It challenges thinking. It drives marketing outcomes. Let's look at just what they said the outcomes are. Traffic, this is why I do it. Traffic, leads, subscribers. These are identical more or less to the benefits of content marketing. And is it effective? The respondents to the survey for thought leadership were virtually the same as the respondents for the blogger survey we do every year. Are you effective in your content marketing? 30% say that their blog delivers strong results. 26% say thought leadership is very successful. You can see again that close relationship. They're like siblings, thought leadership and content marketing. And this question shows that 66% say thought leadership's a priority. 47% of the respondents individually, personally strive to be thought leaders. That to me is love. I am so encouraged by that people want to be leaders in their lives, that people want to grow their personal brand or have a bigger influence on the topics and, represent that point of view. That's so encouraging to me. That just indicates like the hope and optimism of marketers and people online. These are the essential qualities. Communicate in a way that's easy to understand, challenge the way people think, publish data. These were all, the majority of respondents said that these were essential. So I'm going to create a definition of thought leadership combining these. To be a thought leader, you must communicate clearly communicate challenging new ideas and back them up with data and have a strong point of view. These are the nice to have qualities where 50% of people said these were just nice to have things. So I will append these to my definition and say, It doesn't hurt if you're a likable person who publishes consistently and doesn't shy from controversy. So let's get very specific with a list of things that you can all do. Anyone can do. These are not expensive things, as we know. We're content marketers here mostly. How can I get more? I get this question a lot. Andy, how can I get more speaking opportunities? I'd like to revise that question and suggest that you ask this instead. How can you become a more visible expert? That will, I think that's going to put you on a better mindset and put you on a better path. I honestly believe that step one for that is your social media profile picture. If I wanted to recommend you to a conference, that person I recommend you to is immediately going to go look up your name in search and find your social profile. Probably LinkedIn ranks for your name. And then what are they going to see? Back up, please, or zoom in. Frame your face nicely. This is obviously an Office Space reference. It's a famous movie. And I'm not doing social media. I'm doing social media marketing today. I'm not doing just social media in general. Social media for fun and keeping in touch with friends and family. Do whatever you want. Fine. You want to show that you're a silhouette standing on a mountaintop? Cool. But social media marketing, you have to be, right? I said be a visible expert. It's the background that's for your passions. The face, why is Facebook called Facebook? It's because people want to see faces. It is, so I don't want to see any of you have like a, your dog or do that in social media in general. Social media marketing is goal-driven strategic actions that we take and don't want to waste our time. So just making that point. Also, look at your endorsements. If you haven't updated this since college, take a look because it might look like your best skill is Microsoft Office. That's a problem. If you're trying to be a thought leader, it shouldn't look like a intermediate user of Microsoft Office. 15 ways to become a more visible expert. I'm just going to run down. Polish your LinkedIn profile to perfection. Work on that. Work hard on that. And it's a set it and forget it thing. Once it's done, it's kind of polished. You don't have to do that all the time. Google yourself. Do you like what you see? This is called personal SEO. It's a lost art. Manage the SERP for your personal name. Publish deeper, more comprehensive articles. That's the only reason why anyone pays attention to me is because I spent an extra 4 hours on every piece I've done for the last 10 years. And they're comprehensive. They answer the question completely. That's not hard to do. It just takes more time. It's not many things in life. They're not actually more difficult. They're just more time consuming. I got a degree in Mandarin when I was in college. I speak Chinese and people said, oh, wasn't that hard? Kind of, yes. It's kind of just, it just takes longer. You just keep doing it and you'll do it. You'll eventually know it. Conduct a study. Do some research. Publish your original research. Be the primary source for some information. Share more. That is almost a guaranteed way to become more visible. Just be more active. Increase your frequency. And leverage social media video. We are in I could do half an hour on this. We're in a golden era for social media video. LinkedIn especially. Go look at your stream and ask yourself why all of these things at the top are videos. It's because the network wants to keep people engaged. They're favoring that, right? It's going to get noisier and noisier over time, but it's still there's a lot of opportunity for social video in so many categories. Collaborate with other experts. Speak to classes. I still meet people who want to be presenters, but turn down stuff. I don't turn down anything. I say yes to everything, pretty much everything. If I can be there, yeah, any class, any group, any time, yeah. Why? Because it's a chance to meet somebody, right? It's a chance to improve a presentation. It's a chance to learn something. You get better every time. It's like, here's a metaphor I've never talked about before. I was once at a wedding in Wyoming, beautiful place, mountains. And they were doing hot air balloon rides. And my wife and I got in a hot air balloon and went up. And I learned that the people who fly hot air balloons are actually pilots. You have to have a pilot's license to fly a hot air balloon. How do you get a pilot's license? You have to have many hours flying. But hot air balloon flying gives you very few hours because you're only up for like 1 hour at a time. Speaking is like hot air balloon pilots. You should just do it every chance you get because you need to do it a lot before you can actually get to the license to do it on your own. It's a weird metaphor. You can let me know in the comments if I should drop that from my next presentation, or if I should maybe go all in on that and show like hot air balloon slides. Back to my list. Start a mastermind group. Costs nothing. Get some experts together. meet monthly, do it over Zoom. Everything's on remote anyway. And you can build relationships with, that's networking, and learn from, that's your knowledge, the best on on different topics, right? This is a totally underrated thing. I'm part of 2 mastermind groups. It's incredible learning. Go to events. COVID will end. Vaccine will be developed. Late 2021, we're all going to be back getting together. I don't just go to events though. When I go to an event, I always set up a breakfast and invite speakers or whoever will say yes to me to come and eat eggs with me, because no one has plans at breakfast. You get an awesome selfie at the end, and you get to meet and network with experts that you can collaborate with later. It is really powerful. Seems random, I know, but I really recommend it. Start a meetup. Write for everybody. Write every day. I was up at 5:30 this morning. What was I doing? Writing. That's today. That's my day every day. When else am I going to do it? I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. Track your lifetime body of work. I showed you mine. Track that. Track your elbow. And finally, and ultimately, full stop, end of story, learn something useful and then teach it to everyone who will pay attention to you. That's what content marketing actually is. And that is the core of thought leadership, is to win the contest of generosity, to be the most helpful person or brand, to give away as much as you can, as hard as you can, and promote it as well as you can. Nobody conducts research and then hides it, right? That'd be a huge marketing missed opportunity. Learn something useful, whatever it is. Get it out of your brain and onto the internet. That's basically what we're all doing here. And that's why I love this and do it every day. It's a contest of generosity, and it's very competitive, but play to win. You're actually making a difference in people's lives. Thomas, that's what I got.
I mean, this was amazing in the end. I actually learned a lot from myself. So I think everyone appreciated your presentation.
Good.
And it's useful for so many people. As you said, a lot of people are trying to be thought leaders nowadays, and a lot of companies trying to be. So this is for everyone, and everyone should take notice.
Yeah, it's accessible, right? There's nothing in here that is out of reach. Some of it takes courage, some of it takes time, but you know, there's a famous quote from Guy Kawasaki, thought leader. He said, if you have more budget than brains, do outbound. That's advertising. If you have more brains than budget, do inbound. That's content marketing. So this is for those of us who don't have a lot of money to do marketing, but we're willing to compete in that arena of generosity and give away helpful, useful stuff. That's kind of what you know, the core of it.
No, and I love that it's just full of practical insights that you can just start doing them tomorrow. And I think this is great. And you can see that you actually live the advice that you give. So it makes such a significant increase in your advice as well.
It works. It definitely works. It's really another angle on some very common advice, quite honestly, you know, to wrap it in this package of thought leadership. But I think it is important that we hold that term to a high standard. And we can think of all of this as in that lens. And a lot of people are pushed toward that. People ask them, I meet people, they say, I want a blog. Why do you want to have a blog? To be thought leaders. What does that even mean? So this gives us a way to discuss that with our clients and with our teams, with our executives, and to connect it back to an outcome, because content for its own sake is, you know, the whole thing we're trying to avoid.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And yeah, let me just maybe look through a couple of questions. I'll start with the ones that probably the most relevant to the presentation. So the first one I want to ask you about is any tips for finding the areas that are lacking quantitative research? And I think this is a good one, because now everyone after this presentation will try to find an area that they can contribute to. So do you have any advice? What would they start looking at?
Well, there's a fast way to do it by looking at what people have done in the past, and then the skyscraper technique. You're basically going to look at things that did exist, but they're out of date, and then go try to improve them or bring them up to speed. So if you put any domain into any tool that tracks links, you can see the most linked to content, which is usually the most research content. And then look at that content and see how old it is. I know content marketers who make it a rule, they will never link to anything that's more than 2 years old. Okay, let's make, you can satisfy those people by making a newer version of that thing. I've seen Brian Dean do this a bunch of times. He repeated some of the research that I maybe even have mentioned. Or take that and do it for a niche. So I talked about bounce rate in general. Well, if I was doing sites for lawyers and that's my audience, I could talk about what's the top bounce rate for legal. So I think that to do it blue sky and find something that's totally new, difficult. I don't have a great way to do that. But to look to see what's worked for other brands and then to bring it up to date or put a different spin on it, actually that's very easy. And any tool that tracks links will help you find those quickly.
Yeah, no, that's a great advice. Another question was about links. So is it worth to use shortened links with high PR? For example, bit.ly in a blog article, or full URL links are better ones?
I can't think of a good reason to use Bitly at all in any of this, mostly. A Bitly link is, a shortened URL is good if you're trying to help somebody see the link and then go have to type it. Or if you're trying to track a link from a very specific source, like you send someone an email and you want to know if they clicked on that one thing, you can put it in Bitly because you get a report on that. But in content, I would never use a Bitly link to link away from my site to something else. You can track that in analytics using event tracking. If you didn't have Tag Manager, I could share a video that shows you how. You should never do internal linking between pages on your site using Bitly, because that will ruin the traffic source information because it has to wash through Bitly and then come back. If you ever get a link back to your site, I wouldn't use Bitly for that either, because that's going to reduce the domain authority or the authority passed, because it has to go through that URL shortener before it comes to you. It's going to look like a redirect. So I would, there's nothing that I've talked about today that makes me think that there's really a good case for using these shorteners.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great answer. And the last one, it's a bit more general one, but I think it's still something probably people want to hear from you, is what are the most critical things for creating an SEO friendly website? Just like a couple most important things, what comes out of your mind.
Well, don't target a key phrase unless you believe that you have a serious chance of ranking for it. So know your site's domain authority, and then go look up the difficulty of that key phrase, or use a tool like Mozbar and look at the Google search results with authority metrics overlaid. And if all of the high ranking pages have authority much higher than yours, don't target that phrase. Target a longer, more specific phrase. If you don't do that, you're not doing SEO, you have no chance. After you've done that and you've concluded that, yes, I should have a chance of ranking for this key phrase, my authority is in the mix. It's in the range of the other pages that already rank for this phrase. The next step is to go make a page on that topic that is demonstrably better, that you would argue, if Google was the judge and your audience was the jury, you could stand up and defend your page and say, I made the best page on the internet. One great way to do that is to find all the semantically related phrases for your topic. So whatever you talked about, find all the subtopics, find all of the related questions, find all the related grammatical forms, and basically incorporate those into your content. I'm not going to count words, but in the end, you're probably going to create something that's 2,000 to 3,000 to 4,000 words by the time you're done, if you literally tried to make the best page on the internet. So bottom line, understand authority, evaluate competition before targeting a key phrase. Once you've chosen a key phrase, it might be longer than the one you would have originally thought of. Go so deep into that topic, use semantic SEO, and literally make the best page on the internet for what you wrote. If you didn't make one of the top 10 best pages on the internet for that thing, then you really don't deserve to rank on the first page in Google.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah, and I think that's all with our questions. Thanks a lot, Andy. I really, really appreciate you joining us today. It was an amazing webinar. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And everyone here, you're going to get a follow-up email. It will have one more link to my blogger survey. Thank you in advance. And information about the next webinar from Similarweb. Stay tuned to this channel, guys. These guys are putting out amazing content. And I'll look forward to attending the next one.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Bye.
Bye-bye.